record careers of so many tremendous names like Janis Joplin, Blood, Sweat and Tears, Chicago, Billy Joel, Dionne Warwick, Johnny Mathis, and Barry Manilow, and many others, has been a man richly identified with the music world and its revolutions in terms of records, so to speak. His name on a contract with yours would just about automatically spell recording success for you. Oh, big bucks. The president of Arista Records, Mr. Clive Davis. Glad you're back.
Well, I'm honored to be back and to be with you and with Paul.
Interesting thing about you now, funny, for somebody who's not in front of camera all the time, who's behind the scenes, you really handle it very well. Would you care to speculate why it's easier for you than a lot of people in your end of the business?
I think if I had to act, you know, if there was a script or if there was some dialogue to read, perhaps I'd be, as they say, uptight. But I feel that in talking about music, which I love, you know, it comes natural, and
which I've
been doing it for a while. I feel I know it, so that I feel comfortable with people who know.
Yeah.
You're aggressive about that too. For example, in the trades, there are many times you'll see almost it seems like a printed conversation between Clive and a Joe Smith or whatever, who are saying things that they believe in. It's nice. You're comfortable to be aggressive about what you believe. Well, you're also rich. It helps.
That helps.
Well, you've got to be. I find that the media, the establishment media, whether it be in television or whether it be in the paper, you know, they talk about the record business. They cannot seem to wait for something to come about, you know, which is negative. I find that the establishment media that doesn't understand rock, they cannot wait for rock to die, and they're forever, you know, talking about when will it happen, when will rock go out, when will the artist's career die, and you have to be aggressive.
Let me ask you something. There's been tremendous print and spoken word about the fact that the record business is in a slump. Is it?
It's not in a slump. What occurred was that there was tremendous expectations after Saturday Night Fever and Grease, which in the aggregate sold 27 million units, just 2 albums. And what occurred was that this year we sort of did the same amount of business as last year. But if you take out Saturday Night Fever and Grease, which the list price of which was $13.98, so
and
that
it shot it way up.
Oh, it shot it way up.
We returned to normal.
For motion pictures,
in other words,
it would be as though The Godfather, Gone with the Wind, Sound of Music, and The Exorcist were all the same year, and you had to top it that next year. But the interest in music is there. The consumer interest in music is still tremendous.
Yeah. Let me add. There's another question. There's so many things I want to ask you because your career is a very interesting one, in that you went from a record company that was established, had been there many years, long history behind it, CBS Records, Columbia Records.
Yes.
And then you started from point zero with Arista.
Yes.
There has to be a tremendous difference in the way you approach that kind of recording business from one that has been established. Am I right?
Yes, in one sense you're right. It's a different challenge. But when I took over Columbia Records, which was in the mid-'60s, they were very plentiful. They had artists such as Mathis and Mitch Miller and Doris Day, and artists really who had grown up in what we call middle-of-the-road music. And my career began with Joplin and Monterey and Blood, Sweat and Tears, so that it was like starting a new record company because you did have to contemporize. You had to find people to work for the company who understood what the revolution was all about.
Yeah. And there was a revolution.
There was a revolution, really, with the rock revolution, and coming after Monterey with the likes of names such as Jimi Hendrix and The Who. Whereas when you start a new company, obviously you're not fettered with changing over. You don't have the problem of saying, my God, am I dealing with a whole company of people that I might have to disengage if they cannot contemporize. What's amazing about you, really, is your incredible ability to contemporize as music changes. I mean that not to be a mutual flattery, but I'll never forget the dinner we had a year and a half ago, and I was just amazed at the ability of one of the great, great all-time names to be as current as you are, and that's one of the reasons why I'm delighted to be here.
Crazy about music like you
well,
are.
It comes through.
And it moves.
One thing, if I can interject one story about Clive, one observation, not a story, but you've always had an open-door policy. You've always been very accessible to people. It would seem to me, if somebody wanted to play something for you, You were there. I one time thought I'd discovered the Carole King, right, of the
Yeah.
70s, and I was relatively unknown, and I got in to see Clive.
Yeah.
And at the time we didn't know each other, and it was like all of a sudden I wound up with this gentleman who was running Columbia. I wound up, sitting at his desk, and evidently, he didn't agree with me about the act, but it was, please come again, please, and that has to be a part of your success. Willing to take the time like that.
Exactly, because I was going to say if there were one key to success, it's being able to listen. In this business, so many people close themselves off into that tiny little world.
You've got to get out there. I mean, whether it was finding myself by luck at Monterey or going down to a small club in the village to find Blood, Sweat, and Tears, you go all over the country, really, and you listen to tapes. You don't know when the next artist might come from. And you have A&R men. You have that stands for artist and repertoire, who find the artist and help choose some repertoire. But you got to get out there. There's no substitute for it, really.
We're going to be right back with a lot of interesting conversations with Clive.
I hear music.
I gotta go with
Coming up, a special surprise guest for Clive Davis.